Thank you everybody for choosing this talk over the other talks that are going on. So, welcome to all of you. So, a brief about Andrew already introduced me. A brief about me. I've been using MarkLogic as a user since 2009. I've been in the technology industry for more than 20 years now, but a MarkLogic user since 2009, so about 15 years now, and built many applications for large publishing companies and financial industry. I worked on the BBC use case that was being showcased there, and many different implementations of MarkLogic. I'm an ex MarkLogic consultant. I used to work for MarkLogic from 2014 to 2018. In 2018, I co-founded Datavid along with my other co-founder Sylvia, and we have been focusing on solving the problems that uh, technology like MarkLogic and Semaphore solve best, which is where you have large amounts of structured as well as unstructured data, and you want to draw meaning out of that data and transform that data into actionable insight. So that's what the talk is going to be about, and we're going to showcase some of the use cases that we have solved for our customers, as well as a demo. Keeping my fingers crossed, as live demos goes, hopefully it goes fine. So just one slide about who we are, and then I'll move on to how knowledge graphs and AI can help you transform data into actionable insights. So we are about 110 plus. We started in 2018 with two of us. Now we are 110. 25% of the company is ex MarkLogic. So we know each other. We are friends at work. Used to like solving these problems, so got together and started building this organization. Another 20% of us are MarkLogic certified, or customers like you have come from customer background, have implemented solutions with MarkLogic, and now working to solve further challenges and business use cases for our users and for our customers. We have set up in nearshore and offshore. So we have set up in Romania, as well as in India, as well as in Philippines, and we are slowly expanding our footprint in US. This is the total number of enterprise customers we've worked with. It keeps changing with some coming back and working with us on different use cases. And we have a very strong focus on customer success and customer retention, making sure the customer gets the value for what they're investing with us, as well as the knowledge and expertise that they are paying for a consultancy like us. So we are a data intelligence consultancy, and we specialize in extracting business value from structured and unstructured data. What that means is, our consultants have deep knowledge in transforming data, which is raw data, into intelligent data, which is insights, right? And to transform raw data into intelligent insight, you use proven products like MarkLogic, like Semaphore, which can help you really extract value out of your data quickly. And we leverage your domain knowledge, which is customers' domain knowledge in different domains, and we have some expertise in domain knowledge as well with our consultants, and we use proven technology to deliver customer success. So moving on, Kathy Wood at ITK said this, that the winners of AI will be those who know how to use AI and have their own private data. And this is slowly becoming true. All the knowledge industries, and I have a slide here where I'm specifically talking not just about AI, but Gen AI. All these industries, will have lot of transformational impact for their customers and for their users in the applications they provide, in the solutions they provide to their users. And I think AI is going to be a productivity booster for humans, just like computers was in the 80s and 90s, right? Of course, there is all the talk about efficiency and the impact it's going to have on the type of jobs. That is true, but I think it will be a tool for the humans more than anything else. So I've listed some of the examples of how Gen AI will be helpful in different industries. So in healthcare, in medical, as a medical diagnostic assistant, or for drug discovery, in legal for contract analysis, in pharmaceutical for knowledge management and managing, research information, finance for, fraud detection and prevention, in publishing industry for, building insights engine or building knowledge based search platforms, and so on and so forth in under industries as well. And we as Datavid have been working with 3 or 4 of these industry verticals with our customers in implementing these kinds of solution. And I'll be talking about 2 different industry verticals. One is in pharmaceutical and the other will be in publishing. And actually within life sciences, there are 2 use cases we're going to talk about. So pharma and agri-tech, and the third one will be on publishing. So George Santayana, he's a very famous Spanish-American philosopher. He said that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So he's putting the focus on the knowledge that you have within an organization and how important that knowledge is to implement future solutions for your users and for your customers. And John Bernal, who's a famous scientist who discovered X-ray and did a lot of research in molecular biology, said that knowledge that is not being used for winning of further knowledge does not even remain. It decays and disappears. So I think it is important for us, for the future generation, being able to preserve this knowledge, being able to learn from this knowledge, and being able to build systems that last, right? So I was on a trip with my family to Italy recently, and we went to Rome. And we went for a small tour, which was a virtual tour of the Rome, as it was, 2000 years ago, and it showed the history of Rome. And that virtual reality, augmented reality kind of use case, they showcased a film about, how Rome was discovered. It was a hilltop, and there were 5 villages, and how, it's later became Rome. And they showed us in that video that using augmented reality, the architecture that was built during the time, the Pantheon and the various, historic sites which were there. Currently, there are only few remains of that, and you cannot visualize what actually it was, but that was, physical architecture, and it's difficult to preserve. And I think there have been so many wars and so many, dynasties that have fought with each other. So the physical infrastructure was not being retained. But in terms of the digital infrastructure, I think we have enough advances in technology now that hopefully we'll be able to retain the knowledge and retain the power and utilize this knowledge for the future generations to come. So I'm going to specifically talk about the challenges in the life science industry and how users within an R&D setting or a research R&D departments of a life science organization, what are the challenges they face and what are the problems they're facing. So the scientific complexity. So let's take an example of, like an agri-tech company like Syngenta or a pharmaceutical company like, Roche. Their R&D departments have to, deal with a lot of scientific complexity when they're trying to find new molecules for drug discovery or new active ingredients for, producing new kinds of ingredients for improving the crop protection or improving the yields of the crops. And the regulatory complexity is also increasing. And there is large focus on doing things quickly, doing research faster, getting products out in the market faster. And there's too much volume and too much research material that is there out in the domain. How can the scientists get, all the data that is already out there, all the research that they've already done within their organization, as well as all the research that is happening outside the organization by other organizations as well. And a lot of this data is in public domain. And it is no longer manageable by subject matter experts. So there is no digital archaeology where people can dig back and say, okay, I'm interested in a particular type of molecule or particular type of active ingredient. How can I find information about it? What research we have done internally within the organization, what research was done maybe by other organizations available in the public domain. And this results in poor decision making. Now you've not looked at your existing information that is already there, maybe logged into documents, maybe logged into different archives, and there's no time to drive innovation, leading to missed opportunities. So one of the use cases that I'm going to talk later about is for Syngenta, which is an agri-tech company, and how we help them build a system using a knowledge graph, or a better what we call a cognitive search platform that helps their R&D scientists in improving their day-to-day, improving and providing them productivity in terms of how they can quickly find information and focus on research. Now, a solution to this challenge, the challenges that I spoke about in the previous slide, is making knowledge discovery easier. Because if we can make knowledge discovery easier, that will lead to innovation. And how we can lower the energy that is required to transform the data into insight. An insight is something which is useful for let's say an example, an R&D scientist or a user who's trying to find some information, and instead of going through vast amounts of data, if they can get the relevant information that they need. And we can already see with LLMs and ChatGPT and Google search that they allow you to search across the internet, right, and find information. But the LLMs will help you go one step further if you are able to implement those LLMs properly on top of your private data, as what Kathy Wood said, right? So you all have private data within your enterprise, and how you can monetize it, leverage it, how you can implement AI on top of it to make it easier to find insights from that data. So a framework to solving this problem is, having a system or a platform which allows you to connect any type of data in any format, right? This is where the multi-model capabilities of MarkLogic come into play. Data that is being generated by any kind of application, any kind of architecture, any kind of workflow, and being able to connect all this data. This is where we saw, in MarkLogic multi-model capability, MarkLogic's Data Hub platform, connecting all the data from various different sources. Then enriching this data, by creating new facts about the information that is already residing in the data, which is what we would call, fact extraction or classification, which is where you can use semaphore, which will help you find entities, find information which is within the data, and build a knowledge graph. And then the consumption side, you can visualize this knowledge graph. This knowledge graph lets you start from, a particular entity, and then drill down and see what are the relationship with other entities. And then also feed this kind of knowledge graph to an LLM to provide what we call, specialized UI for, chatbot interfaces like ChatGPT is. You can ask questions, it will give you answers, do quizzes. You can build cognitive search platforms. You can do better analytics and visualization. So let's say you're a pharma company or a ag tech company, there's a lot of regulation. You need to submit regular reports on your trials or on your research to the regulators. So all that data, once transformed and enriched, can be used for analytics and reporting. And then, of course, in case of finance and banking domain, it allows you to provide fact-based intelligence. So there are a lot of benefits of this framework, right? And there are a lot of data advantages you get once you put this kind of framework in place. So once you've connected your data, created, and you start building consumption applications, so you build in, MDM kind of application, you build in knowledge graphs, you integrate generative AI, you'll get a lot of data advantages. The few of the advantages are listed here, Once you enrich your data, you sort of put the context to your data. You contextualize your data. It also improves the quality of your data. It unifies your data. And a platform like MarkLogic with inbuilt, security features and governance features allow you to really manage how the data is being consumed. It results in better outcomes. It gives you trusted AI that you can trust. Matthew showed an example of, comparing a normal LLM with trusted AI built on Progress Data Platform, uh, you can see where the information came from. It was giving you the lineage and the provenance. It helps you making smarter decisions, build better applications for customer experience, as well as drive new product innovation if you're trying to monetize your data and sell better value to your customers. And yes, Progress Data Platform, allows you to build such a framework and implement it within your landscape. Now, once you adopt such a framework, it results in many different shifts within your organization, right? And many benefits. First of all, it simplifies the data access across your organization. Data is in one place. It's modeled in the knowledge graph. You are able to go and see what data is there, and it accelerates the data-driven decision making within the organization. And it also helps you scale innovation within the organization. The investments that you're doing in Gen AI or in LLMs, you're able to see the value that you're getting out of it. And based on that value, you're able to make further decisions on how to invest and what benefits users are getting. And these four shifts, right, is something which requires change within an organization. And in large enterprise organizations, it takes time. But I think these will result in, more innovation within the organization. Now I'm going to talk about how you can integrate LLMs with your own private data repositories or your knowledge graphs. And there are various ways, there are various options, and I'm going to briefly, discuss few of the options and what are the benefits of these options. So one of the options is, you can take a base LLM, fine tune it with your own data, and then let users ask questions against it. There are some pros and cons to this particular approach. So there are hallucinations, of course, because it is dependent on the base LLM and there's bias. It is expensive to train and maintain because every time the base model will change, you'll have to change and retrain your model, as well as access control is hard to implement, right? Because let's say you currently have a knowledge management system within an R&D organization where you have fine-grained access control, you have what we call entitlement model, where you say users coming from a certain part of the company are only able to access certain type of data. Or for example, a publishing company, if they have a full entitlement model, okay, certain library has access to certain journals and users of that library will only be able to access that data. If you are now start providing LLM integrated capability, which is based on this particular option, you cannot control that fine-grained access control because the answers will come from all the data. You cannot limit it. So there are some restrictions with this particular approach. The second approach is, resource augment generation using vectorization. So you create a vector database with all of your data, and so feed all your data documents into LLM, create a vector database, and then let users query this data. Again, there are pros and cons. There'll be some hallucinations and bias. If the model changes, you have to re-vectorize all your data and maintain it every time a model changes. And again, access control is hard in this particular option as well. The third option, and there might be many variations of this option, but the third option that we heard in the morning in the main hall when Matthew was explaining, using RAG, using knowledge graphs, which we also call graph RAG, where you will use you can use mark logic as well as semaphore technology to enrich your data, tag your data, build your knowledge graph, extract all the entities. You can bring in your custom ontologies and taxonomies, use them for natural language processing, for named entity recognition, and building your knowledge graph. And then you can feed based on the user queries. When user asks a query, you can feed this subsection of a graph to the LLM and use it for answering the question. Here you get more benefits. It's your private data. You have full access control. The data is in MarkLogic. You get all the features of MarkLogic security model. You have validated this data with your own semantic knowledge. when you did the tagging, you would have provided your own bespoke ontologies and taxonomies. You use them for tagging all the information. And so and the information that this kind of a system will give will be highly contextual, and it will be specific information based on your private data which you already have, and it maintains the lineage. And I'll be demoing this later in the talk. And so the hallucinations are minimized and the bias is reduced, because you might choose to say, if you are not able to answer this properly from my private data that is already there in the knowledge graph, then don't give an answer. Just say, I don't know. So the comparison of this option, I already talked about, what are the pros and cons, right? During when I was talking about the slides. But you can see option 3 really simplifies the architecture. You already have existing investments where you have built data hubs, data lakes, data mesh, you've built your private data repositories or your private search engines. And what you're doing is just integrating LLM on top of it, right? Using on top of the MarkLogic platform. It's a simpler architecture. It provides you context on the fly to feed into the LLM, and it gives you the full provenance of where the result came from and where you can verify how the response was constructed. It gives you fine-grained access control and full access control and entitlement, and it provides you enriched results in terms of as it is built on your private knowledge graph. And as I said, it reduces hallucinations significantly. There are some cons with this approach. You have to create the context and provide. And this is where we feel that what is coming out in MarkLogic 12 EA about vector support will help, because you might still decide to maybe vectorize some parts of your data, but not all your data. And you'll be able to control it fully and say, okay, let's vectorize maybe most commonly used queries, right? If certain queries are being asked by all the users or all the users of the system, you might say, let me just vectorize the data or the response which is relevant to that. So with that kind of capability within MarkLogic, I think it will really be transformational in terms of how you manage. And I used to say, when I was working for MarkLogic, that MarkLogic's main power is it's 3-in-1. It's a database, it's a search engine, and it's a graph DB. Now it's going to be 4-in-1. It will also going to be support vectors. So it's really powerful capability coming out in MarkLogic 12. So we actually have a solution, an accelerator called Datavid Rover, which allows you to build a knowledge graph with Gen AI. It's a solution which is available on our website. You can see demos of it. I'm going to demo it briefly as well. And if you're interested, we can help run a pilot. We have few of our users running a pilot with this system now and testing it out. And it is built on top of MarkLogic, integrates with Semaphore, and gives you all the power of using knowledge graphs with Gen AI. And the benefit is it comes with a lot of connectors out of the box. So your data might be in relational databases, in Salesforce, in SAP, in CRM systems. It comes with out of the box connectors to feed all that data. And once the data is ingested, harmonize the data and standardize it, and then enrich your data using your ontologies and taxonomy. As I said, it integrates fully. It is fully integrated with Semaphore. And you can bring in your own machine learning models with it, existing models for classification. It is built using API first, so you can plug in. It's a plug and play architecture, and then you can use it for consumption of data. Which is different use cases around discovery, knowledge discovery, and building analytics product. LLMs are coming into play in various aspects. You've already heard that Semaphore has LLM capability now. So it helps you, when you're creating your models, to suggest terms and, do more with it. And it helps you with metadata and data curation. And of course, in the final delivery, you can build chatbot use cases, quiz use cases, or, I'll give you some practical examples. We are working with a pharma company in building a chatbot where they're able to do, legal questionnaires, Q&A, or for compliance, or you might use it for, generating clinical reports faster. The value it provides to you as an organization, it accelerates the innovation. It increases the collaboration. You're able to share knowledge within the organization. It enhances the decision making. So, for example, in an R&D organization where they're using the system, they're able to quickly get the information that they need. It accelerates the development time. The platform is, as I said, already built on Mark Logic and integrates with Semaphore. So all the capabilities out of the box. It has visualizations out of the box, which you can edit and change. And it overall reduces the total cost of ownership. So now I'm going to talk about 3 different use cases. So this one is from an R&D organization. Their R&D department have many researchers who, prior to this system was built, used to go to 10 different portals. They'll go to Google Scholar, they'll go to PubMed, MedArchive. They'll try to find information about a particular research topic. And this is an agri-tech company, Syngenta, and they produce, crop protection formulations as well as seeds, which are then used for by the farmers in, improving the yields of the crops. And the R&D teams used to spend hours trying to find the information, right? And legacy information was logged away in different formats, so OCR, handwritten notes, PDFs, PowerPoints, Word, Excel. This is a 100-year-old organization, so they had a lot of research where, the data was not digitized or digitized with those, handwritten notes in OCR format. And thousands of man hours were spent to find the information. And there are again regulatory changes wherein, Environmental Protection Agency have ruled out that there'll be no further mammal testing by 2035. What that means is that they have to do more with their existing data and their existing knowledge, and they really need to leverage existing knowledge to find information. So what we built for them is this AI-powered platform called Synapse. It's a new generation of search solution. It uses, NLP techniques, NER techniques, using, bespoke chemistry ontologies and taxonomies to build a knowledge graph, and then visualization on top of it, so that the R&D scientists are able to visualize the data, see the information, and then use it. And actually, they did some studies and said, it gives significant productivity gains. The amount of time they're spending, which they used to spend earlier in finding the information inside the organization, outside the organization, has significantly reduced. And they can spend time on innovation using the key information, also ensures that they don't miss out any information, and they can focus on, the actual research. We have recently integrated LLM in this platform. They're currently trialing it. That bit of the release is not yet live on this Synapse platform, but it's in UAT phase where the users are testing the LLM integration. And we actually tried 3 different LLMs models and said which one will be better. So our team spends about 4 months doing a proof of concept with different LLMs to see which one give them better results. Because, there are some bespoke LLMs with chemistry data, which helps them, find better information compared to generic LLMs. This is how the UI looks. I cannot do a live demo of this, but this is how the UI looks. So you'll see it's like a typical semantic search platform. User is searching for azoxystrobin, which is a chemical substance, and they are filtering their results on a particular document type. And it gives all the results and gives you a foam tree of, the extracted concepts and the knowledge graph. And on the right, another type of visualization they built, which also gives you, uses a clustering algorithm to see what is the relation between different terms. Another use case is publishing. Research Insights Engine. This is a scientific publisher who built a cognitive AI platform. Our team built this within the minimum viable product in 6 months. There are large amounts of, journal articles. And this system uses, mesh and PubChem ontology. It uses both MarkLogic and Semaphore. It allows them to, provide new kinds of insights engine to their users. I think this multi-agent architecture is something I will come back to but basically this is something we have been implementing with one of our use cases for our customers, where you have the knowledge graph on the left and then you have your LLM at the bottom. How you can use LLMs, integrate LLMs. And the concept here is that you can parallelize, to improve the results and improve how it responds. You can parallelize some of the work by, how the chatbot behaves. So in this case, we implement a chatbot interface and it gives a better informed answer to the user. So I'm going to go into the demo now. Let me escape this. Okay, I hope you all can see my screen. It's a bit small, but this is Datavid Rover platform. It's a solution built on MarkLogic. You come to the dashboard screen. It's showing you the ontology. In this case, we have the COVAC ontology and the disease ontology, which has been used to tag all the terms. And when user comes to this UI, they can, you see on the x-axis the different ontologies, and the y-axis are the other concepts from the ontologies. And the users can, R&D users can use this kind of a system when they are doing research and trying to find correlation between, cell and a disease or cell and a chemical entity. This uses publicly available medRxiv data, so articles from medRxiv, and it uses disease and COVAC ontology for tagging all the information, which is what you're seeing on the UI here. And typical, search-based interface with facets and everything over here. And you can go to the content and you can see, these are articles which are about COVID research, and go within the articles and you can see the table of content and, what are the different information about. This particular demo has, semaphore integrated and built on MarkLogic, as already said. You can, select all the terms and it shows you what are the different diseases, what are the different COVAC terms it found within the article which are related to that. And there are some relations view and graph view, which also allows you to explore the relationships. And it also gives you provenance because it takes you to the article in medRxiv and says where this article came from. So it's a PDF article. So basically it's a demo of a, research R&D kind of application where researchers are trying to find information about COVID-19, building a knowledge graph using disease and COVAC ontology and leveraging it further. We have LLM integrated here, so you can ask question here. We have different LLMs integrated here. So we have actually integrated the Llama platform. So it enables about 80 different models. User can choose from whichever model they want to enable. We are using Bedrock here. You can also have local LLM, which we are doing with one of the public sector departments in England, who are actually deploying a local LLM and testing this out. And you can ask question, from this chatbot, and it will use this information, these 18,000 articles that are indexed, and try to answer your question. Another demo is this demo, which is another pharmaceutical company who are trialing the Rover platform. And let me go to this use case. And this, let me go full screen. If it works, yeah, okay. This is a global pharma company. They are building, an LLM chatbot using their own compliance documents, right? This is also built on top of MarkLogic using LLM technology. And so we built the knowledge graph for them. They loaded their policy documents. We use a taxonomy to extract the information. And then we built a chatbot, which is then being used to answer questions, right? So if I go back quickly and give you a demo on this. So I was testing this earlier. Let me reset the conversation. So an employee of this organization comes and asks a question, what is our policy on gifts? And it gives the answer from their policy document. It also gives the full provenance of where the information came from. And you can see it's validating the resources from where the data came from, and it will give links to the policy document and actually to the exact page from where the answer came from. We have also built a slight enhancement to this now which is a recent release. So you can say, okay, um, quiz me on GDPR. Let's see. So it's a okay. So now it's asking me, it's quizzing me now. So first was a chatbot. You ask a question, it gives you answer. This is where you don't know. You're a new user. You can say, okay, let's play with the LLM and say, okay, what does GDPR stand for? So you can use it for compliance, right? So this is basically being built for them for their legal compliance team. They are a small team and they get hundreds of queries from their employees every day, and they have to look at various sources, say this is the answer. So building this chatbot, building this quiz interface, they can educate the employees as well as they can ask questions, and they're all the questions will be answered only from their data. It will not go outside. It will not hallucinate. If it doesn't know the answer, it will say I don't know the answer. So there is no point. There is no scope of hallucination. We are building sort of an admin backend for this as well, where you'll be able to say whether you like the answer or don't like the answer, whether it's the correct answer. So we are going to build like sort of reinforcing enforcement learning model behind the scene to say based on user feedback how we can improve it. We're also building some admin dashboard for this, so users will be able to say what portions of the policy documents to use, what not to use. So all that kind of work is going on in this particular pilot. So I think that covers. Let me go back to my presentation. I know it's being recorded on Teams. Yeah, so it will basically help in productivity gains for the policy team. It will, be giving a better and consistent user experience for the users, and it will meet the regulatory and compliance needs where they have to say, okay, how are you educating your employees? How are you making sure they know the different facts and information? There is some private data here. I deliberately didn't ask private questions to that chatbot because it's sensitive data. But the public data is what I just showcased you, which is publicly available. Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
So it seems like that Data Rover is incorporating MarkLogic and Semaphore.
Yes, so it's basically a solution accelerator we built. It's been there for about 18 months. It is built on top of MarkLogic, so you need a lot of that capability, and it has integration with Semaphore. So which means like if you are curating your metadata in Semaphore, building your ontologies and taxonomies there, it has the connector already built in, so you can just click of a button, get your ontologies, taxonomies into Rover, use it for NLP, basically entity extraction and tagging, which is what I showed in that COVID demo. Exactly. So it uses both MarkLogic and Semaphore.
So once you have it set up, you're spending more time with Data Rover and Semaphore's more in the background?
Yeah. So Datavid Rover, it's like an accelerator, right? So I mean, you might not. That UI is the sample UI, right? You might. That's like a search focused UI, right? You might want different visualization or different UI. So we have built different variations of it. So what we see is, if you're using Datavid Rover, you might be extending the UI or changing the UI based on your use cases. But in the background, it has Semaphore where you can, curate your ontologies and then bring it to Rover. So the integration is there. So you can curate ontologies there, taxonomies there, then use it for tagging and everything in Semaphore using Semaphore's fact extraction. But then Rover lets you visualize it and search and, so we have a knowledge graph. Actually, I forgot to showcase that bit. There is, there is a bit of a, we have done some graph visualization also there. So let me come out of this mode. I'll be able to showcase that. So let's say you are in a particular document, you want to see, okay, what are the different entities that have been extracted from this particular document. So then, it has graph visualization, it says, okay, from this policy document, what are the different things that I have extracted? So all that capability is built in. And again, as I said, we have integrated the Llama framework. So about 80 different models are supported already. So you can choose which LLM model you want to integrate with it, right? The one I showcased was using Claude, but you can use OpenAI. You can choose to host your local one. You can choose any of the models, So it basically gives you the framework already plugged in already for you, and then you can start loading your data and start playing with it and start getting value. So instead of spending few months just putting the plumbing together and getting everything together, this accelerates the development heavily. And this was built based on user feedback. Like we were seeing customers starting with MarkLogic and spending time building the visualizations. And I think that's where MarkLogic is also going. That's why they launched Fast Track, right? So being able to easily visualize data. But we went in the same direction that okay, let's build visualizations on top of MarkLogic, fully integrated on the platform, so you're able to leverage and start seeing your data quickly. Yeah.
You mentioned about the fast track. So are you planning to then use the fast track in your future?
Yes, so we are going to evaluate it. It just came out. We have got a trial license now. So we'll be evaluating fast track, and hopefully we are looking to see if, better to integrate it with this so that, users get more benefit out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also mentioned about the semaphore integration with the MarkLogic. So are you using the data hub technology within the MarkLogic to do the curation and the integration with the semaphore, or?
So for the integration with Semaphore, we have built separate connector
Okay.
using their API.
Okay.
The behind the scene data hub is also used for the curation bit. Yeah.
When measuring the like quantifiable impact that this type of solution could have, other than putting more time back into the researcher's day, what other metrics are you evaluating for a buying committee to, maybe pitch it up to a CIO who isn't very technical?
That's a very good question. So I think that starts with the business case, right? And generally, as a service provider, we are not involved in that sometimes, or most of the time, right? Because they want to do that analysis and the business case beforehand, right? Okay, what if we use this kind of technology or build this a platform? What are the benefits, right? Apart from productivity gains, what else? What are the KPIs and what are the metrics? So we are not involved at that stage. We know about them because if a business case is being built and we are getting involved, like for example the pharma chatbot use case, right? That currently they are trialing it, right? So we are building this, they are trialing, and we are adding new features every single day to that platform based on their requirements and feedback. So they are measuring this against other products that are there in the market to say how does this perform better and what are the metrics. Now they haven't shared the metrics with us because of course that we are under evaluation there.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that answer that with pharma companies in particular, one of the key issues is time to market. Because getting a product to market 3 months earlier can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So they never share that kind of number with us because they're afraid we'll put our rates up.
Yeah.
And do your customers have any preference regarding closed or open source models? So regarding the security and data privacy?
Yeah, a lot of concerns there, right? Everybody is concerned about, Yeah, sorry. The question is, what are the preferences of the customers based on, open source model versus closed source models and different kinds of models that are in the marketplace, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of concerns. So we are doing two trials, one with the pharma company, right, and they have their own platform, which they have built on top of available LLM technologies, and our solution is integrating with their platform. And basically, so they are doing due diligence on the platform that what LLMs are allowed, what LLMs are not allowed, how they can use that data. Second use case, you saw the local tab there, right? So we're doing a trial with a UK government department, and they don't want any data to go out of their network, not even the queries, even though this is the RAG approach, right? So actually, you're not training the LLM in any way, but they don't even want to put contextual information into LLM. They are that strict about it. So we ended up hosting a local LLM within their own infrastructure.
Okay, but this would you finally put to the prompt the context for this local LLM?
So local means it's not hosted in in any of the cloud. Yeah, it's not hosted in the cloud anywhere. It's hosted in their environment, completely closed. So so typically, if you're putting questions to LLM, generally LLMs are learning from it. And then most of the LLM providers have given like a feature where you can switch off and say, please don't learn from my data because my data is private. But yeah, so some customers are saying, yes, please switch off. We don't want it to be trained on our data because that's our IP, right? Because if LLM is trained on it, later a release comes out, it's able to answer questions about that topic, right? So there are a lot of concerns. Most of the use cases we are doing, that option is definitely switched off. Don't let LLM learn from it unless you are uploading publicly available data, which is already there. And in some cases, then people are talking about, how you govern the output from the LLM. How do you make sure, it doesn't produce something which is harmful in any way, right? So there are a lot of governance discussions going around, right? And I know there are a couple of companies out there who are, spending a lot of time in building governance frameworks. The EU AI Act came out last month, and we were in a talk last week actually, Clive and I, with a lot of government bodies, and it's a public sector talk that how that AI Act will impact everything that you do with LLMs. So there's a lot of scrutiny and spotlight on this, how you use this data, how this will be used. So we, like everybody else, we are trying to learn, work with our customers, share our learnings, and learning ourselves from it.
And another question: have you ever had a problem where when you inject the context to the prompt to get the answer, but there is a limit for the context? Is there any issues where the answer is not on the first document, but it's on the 100, which is not passed to the context, or it's out of the context?
Yeah, so this is where I think I should get my engineering team. This is where this architecture, multi-agent architecture, is coming into play. So if you go out of context, right, how you can parallelize when you're working with LLMs and get the context back up based on the question of the context. So I know our team has done some work in this area. I cannot properly explain. Maybe I'll follow up with you later in a call. They can better explain how we have solved this problem. But yeah, we have come across limits on context, and then how do you solve it? So we've built something for this, or we're building and learning as we go. Yeah.
I have a question on how you're implementing the user access controls on knowledge graph. So in a typical reg sense, right, we just have documents and chunks of documents. The users have access to the document or they don't, right? And so then the chatbot essentially sees what the user should see. When you have more of the knowledge graph, right, now you have more of abstract concepts, right, that might be derived from multiple documents. How do you go about deciding, which users have access to the concepts?
Yeah, so I'll just repeat the question. So how do you implement access control? Because if you're using knowledge graph, the entities are extracted, those are in the graph. And now you're away from the document, right? So you can control document level access, but how do you control access on the knowledge graph, and also how that information is then fed into LLM and the answers come in? So I think this is where, I think MarkLogic plays a good part, because you can actually put role-based access control or fine-grained access control on your knowledge graph itself. So on the entities that you have extracted, Imran can, he's nodding, so I'm saying right. So you can actually, when you build the knowledge graph, say what entities which user has access to. Then when you build this kind of interface and you build the chatbot, as I was telling you that, the chatbot I am logged in here, right? I'm a user, I'm logged in here. I will only get response from the documents that I have access to, or the knowledge that I have access to. If I don't have access to the knowledge graph as a user or to those documents, that will not be fed to the LLM. And I will say, I don't know the answer to your question. So it fully gives you fine-grained control. And this again helps with the, that multi-agent architecture I was talking about, because what's happening behind the scene is actually, this is not straightforward knowledge graph fed into LLM. We are doing document search on MarkLogic, which is normal lexical search. We are doing knowledge graph search, which is, semantic search. We are feeding the two together, looking at the relevancy, and then giving the results. So it's both, and there is some vectorization as well. So, and then relevancy of which answer is better is determined on all three. So there's an algorithm that the team has put behind this for their use case based on what their requirement was.
Another question. How do you preserve or guarantee the consistency of the response from LLM? It's matter only setting temperature to 0, or it's like that, okay, when someone, user A asks the same question and user B asks the same question, they will get slightly different response?
That's a very good question. So actually they're testing this now. The customer is testing this now. So setting the temperature to 0, right? That's one. And then how do you make sure that you get correct answer every time? What we have noticed is if you change the type of the LLM, you get different kind of response. So this is using Claude. If you were using OpenAI, you'll get different kind of answer because the summarization, the language bit varies from LLM to LLM based on how it has been trained. So to keep it deterministic within a particular LLM is still possible if you set the temperature to 0, remove all hallucination and say, just don't give an answer if you don't know about it, right? Don't generate anything. But across LLMs, certainly not. Across versions of LLM, let's say Claude comes out with a new version, release every 3 months, 6 months, it will change. So that's the big challenge, right? So you'll have to bake this in with your whole release cycle, your full CI/CD pipeline to say, like we used to do, good software practices, you'll put automated regression tests to say, this is the answer I'm getting with this version of the model. Now I'm going to upgrade to a new model version, right? I need to do my regression tests again. Have the answers changed significantly? If they have, do I need to do something about it? So
Setting the temperature to 0 doesn't have an impact to the response matter that you are getting the a little bit poor quality response.
again, I think I'll have to get my team to talk to you. They are doing this day in day out. We'll be able to explain a bit further. Yeah, but I'm exactly as you said, because if you change those configuration, it behaves differently. So we have some learnings from it, right? And the team is trying to understand how it works with this particular use case. Okay. Thank you very much.